endometriosis. May I request Dr. Uma Rai to introduce our speaker?
Yeah. Nina.
Yeah. Dr. Nina, can I share my screen? Just a second.
Yeah.
All right. I go back?
Yeah.
No, it's not. Still not coming.
Just a second.
Dr. Nina is going to speak on adolescent endometriosis.
All right, it's okay.
And she's director of Ops and Gynae at Putis LAFEM, GK2, New Delhi. And I think I won't waste any time. Let's hear what she's going to speak on. Your data didn't come, so I just...
It's okay, right. Yeah. Welcome, Dr. Nina.
So very good afternoon to Dr. Sharda Jain ma'am and all the academic enthusiasts out there. And thank you, Dr. Meenakshi, for offering me this talk today. So it's often said that he who knows endometriosis knows gynecology. I would go a step ahead and say he who knows his adolescent endometriosis is going to nail it. So there's a huge burden of endometriosis in our society today. 1 in 10 out of all adult females is going to have endometriosis. In our own Indian study, more than 50% of young adolescent girls are suffering from dysmenorrhea. And out of these, more than 50% are likely to have endometriosis of varying degrees in their lifetime. So it is very unfortunate that the symptomatology, before it starts appearing and before the correct diagnosis is made, it almost takes sometimes up to, on an average, 4 to 7 years. Before that, the poor adolescent girl, she keeps on complaining about sometimes debilitating dysmenorrhea, and at times the symptoms are so vague that she's at times going to a gastroenterology person, then to a urologist. And so it takes quite a bit of time before the accurate diagnosis is made in these young girls. So one should be very careful when a young girl is getting absent from school every 4 to 5 days a month, or her dysmenorrhea is increasing, because having chronic pelvic pain in teens is not normal, and we should not just let it go that I had it, my mother had it, take hot water bottle and whatnot. So one should have a very high index of suspicion in these young girls. Now say a 15-year-old who is having chronic pelvic pain or severe dysmenorrhea, which in spite of painkillers is not getting relieved, it's time to go in for further investigation for this young girl. And doing a good pelvic ultrasound is the basic which needs to be done in these girls. So with the ultrasound, there is one problem in adolescence. As Dr. Malvika said, that TBS is the best methodology. But in adolescence, most of the time, they are younger girls, not sexually active, and hence pelvic ultrasound can be offered to them. Transvaginal cannot be done. So there is some limitation with the ultrasound thing, but a good 2D, 3D ultrasound offers quite a bit. At times, we can even go in for rectal probe to find out if there is deep infiltrating endometriosis. But the thing is that in younger age, deep infiltrating endometriosis is not so common as compared to small lesions which are white, red, or clear lesions. So even if you have nothing seen on the ultrasound, there still can be endometriosis. But because in teenage girls, it is only small red, white, or red lesions which can be picked up in laparoscopy. But here a very important message is that laparoscopy, unlike the gold standard as advocated by Dr. Malvika, should not be used for just diagnostic purpose. If your ultrasound does not reveal any positive finding, then it is not going, the MRI is not going to help you out, laparoscopy is not going to help you out. So, but ultrasound is very important to pick up other things which may cause dysmenorrhea. Like if there is obstructive Mullerian anomaly, say there's a rudimentary horn with an active endometrial lining. In this also, patient is going to have debilitating dysmenorrhea, which is gradually increasing, not relieved by pain. So at that time, you can even go in for MRI, and surgery is the option for this female. Here a word of caution. CA125 is not recommended as a diagnostic tool for adolescents, Rather, sometimes it may do harm. You know, the CA125 is raised, and there's a cyst seen in the ultrasound. This young girl may get her ovary chopped off by some unknowing surgeon. I don't say gynecologist, but surgeon definitely. So how do we go about managing these adolescent girls? There are two-pronged management. One is to alleviate her pain, and the other is to stop the progression of the disease. So there is no role of expectant management in adolescents for the mere reason that this is a progressive disease. It is not going to stop. Eventually, it is going to cause infertility and debilitating pain and morbidity later on in life. So we must treat her, A, to relieve pain, and B, to stop the progression of the disease. So various drugs available for medical management are NSAIDs, oral contraceptive pills, progesterones, new progesterones. So here I would like to add one thing, you know, that levonorgestrone or loaded intrauterine system or Mirena can also be offered to older adolescents who are going laparoscopy for any other reason if they are suffering from endometriosis. Mirena can be inserted in the same sitting while she is under anesthesia. That also offers a good relief in the pain. Now for the management, the role of laparoscopy, I'll just come to it in a while, but it should be as the last resort, not the first resort, unlike in adults. See, both ASHRAE and World Endometriosis Society recommend that progestogens should be used either as one of the options or even the first line of treatment for adolescent endometriosis. So NSAIDs are very good in relieving the pain, ibuprofen 600 milligrams 3 times a day, but be very careful to make sure that this young girl takes it with plenty of water and takes it post-meal. You should not give opioids, not even tramadol to these patients, because even for 8 to 10 days, sometimes there can be addiction with opioids and tramadol in younger girls. So now, oral contraceptive pills, you know, they've been used for the last 50 years, oral contraceptive pills, to give relief because they definitely do cause hormonal suppression. But the estrogen part in the oral contraceptive pills does not help in the progress because the disease, it does nothing to regress the disease. And there have been no scientific studies which see the role of oral contraceptive pills onto the endometriosis. But they work well, they are cheaper option. There are a few things which have to be noted here, that oral contraceptive pills should not be used in a young girl who's less than 13 years of age. These days, you know, puberty occurs even at 9, 10. So please do not use oral contraceptive pills before age 13 in younger girls. So any low-dose contraceptive pill would work, but it should not be used in a cyclical fashion. The mantra here is to use continuously, like for 6 months, so that the main idea is she should not be having her periods, because we all know that the more periods she has, the more endometriosis is going to progress. So now coming on to Dynogest. See, Dynogest is the newer progesterone, which is now favorite of a lot of gynecologists, and for a reason. Because Dynogest just is the progestin part. It does not have any estrogen part, so it helps in regression of the disease. Not only the symptoms, they go away, but also the pain management is there, and the disease regression is there also with Dynogest. Now, there have been scientific studies with Dynogest as well. The phase 1 trial was done to see what dose the Dynogest works best for adolescents. So it was used in 1, 2, 4, and 6 milligram. So it was seen that if you increase the dose beyond 4 milligram, the side effects are more. If the dose is less than 2 milligram, the effect is not adequate. So the ideal dose of giving Dynogest is 2 milligram. But sometimes if the symptoms are not relieved, then for a short period of while, you can make it 2 BD, that is 4 milligram, but don't increase it to 6 milligram. It's not going to work. In phase 3 trial, it was seen that the placebo was compared with Dynogest, and over a period of 53 weeks, it was seen that Dynogest works much, much better than placebo any day. Now, there are two things. If Dynogest doesn't work for some period of time and the girl is above, say, 16 or 17 or 18 years of age, you can give GnRH analogs for a very short period of time, like 3 to 6 months, and then go back to Dynogest in these girls. One big concern is that in study, it was seen that after, if you were wanting to give Dynogest over, say, a longer period of time, maybe 2 years, 3 years, then it is prudent to do bone densitometry after 1 year, because the bone densitometry does go down. But once you stop the medicine, 80% of the girls, their bone densitometry comes back. So this is one very big advantage of Dynogest. And it is a good, see, there have been no long studies, no scientific studies comparing Dynogest with oral contraceptive pills. So there is a study which is going on, which is a prospective study, which is still going on. Maybe we see results in some time with those studies. So again, I would come back to that point that laparoscopy is not the first line of treatment in adolescents. It has very, very specific indication in adolescents. Only if there is failed medical management, like you tried for 3 to 6 months giving her NSAIDs, hormonal suppression, but still the poor girl is in debilitating condition, then only you should go in for laparoscopy. And also one very important take-home message today, that the size of endometrioma, even if endometrioma is detected, say on the ultrasound, the size does not determine whether she should go in for laparoscopy. If she is getting good results, you put her on to medical management and the pain is not there, the symptoms are subsiding, there is no need of going in for laparoscopy, even if it is 3, 4, 5 or 6 centimeters of an endometrioma. Only if there's sudden increase in size of the endometrioma, or there's signs and symptoms of rupture of endometrioma, or say there are pressure symptoms like there is hydronephrosis, hydroureter, then definitely with endometrioma you should go in for laparoscopy. Or if the diagnosis is uncertain, or you're suspecting some kind of Mullerian abnormality which needs to be sorted out, and if there is suspicion of malignancy, then surgical management is definitely to be done in adolescents also. So, but even if you are doing laparoscopy for adolescents, it has to be followed up very closely. And still the patient needs to be put on either oral contraceptive pills or Dynogest for a long-term follow-up so that disease does not recur. Because all of us know that endometriosis by its very nature is a recurrent disease and it's likely to come back. In younger adolescent girls, just as I said before also, the only lesions probably you would see is small, clear or white, small spots rather than, and there can be peritoneal defects, but deep infiltrating endometriosis, which comes later on in life, is rarely seen in younger girls. One should be careful to just fulgurate at low intensity current rather than using too much of current in these patients. I think, Doctor, the tips on ovarian cystectomy, Dr. Malvika has already discussed. I would just like to add a point here that we can put in some vasopressin into the capsule so that it bleeds less and the need for cauterization in younger girls minimizes. And as Donay says that, you can do partial cystectomy in these, leave the base intact so that minimum of cautery is used, minimum of follicles are wasted in younger girls. And it is a good idea to do AMH beforehand so that you have it documented with you. So we should definitely have some kind of strategy, whether we need to put some camps into schools for adolescent girls, maybe as a DGFS or DGF in total, we can think of some strategy. So in the last, I would just like to add, we should treat the patient, not the disease. So you should give a holistic approach and see to it that she's not vitamin D deficient, she's taking adequate healthy diet and exercising well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Neena, for an excellent, crisp, to the point talk.
Chances of ovarian tumors, dysgerminomas in these girls. So one has to be really very, very careful when you really suspect them and do extensive investigation if it is needed. If you have a suspicion of malignancy, which is there, when there is an ovarian mass, And because I remember a number of cases, a young girl, 17 years, 18 years, and then you find she had been treated for 6 months or so for endometriosis and given medical treatment. And when you later on find out that exactly she said that when the size of the tumor increases very fast, you have to suspect malignancy. And then, of course, laparoscopy and biopsy, and of course, the treatment is differs. Thank you very much. It was really beautifully elaborated, and
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Nina. Let's move on to